Hi ladies, how are you? Nice to see you. We're talking today about, I call the shiur the light and the darkness. It's basically Emunah, אבל to see the beauty, how Hashem structures the world, you know. And in this parsha that we're going to read in Shabbat, Parshat Tareh, we're going to read like that. כי מנסה השם אלוקיכם אתכם, לדעת הישכם אוהבים את השם אלוקיכם בכל לבבכם ובכל נפשכם. Hashem wants to test us and see if we really love Him with all our heart and all our soul. Okay? And let's start with a nice story. A grandfather and a grandchild, okay, were sitting together. It was bedtime, and the grandson is asking the grandfather if he can tell him a story, a bedtime story. So the grandfather is saying, what type of story you want? You want a sad story? Or you want a happy ending story? He says, whatever you say, whatever, every story that you tell, it's a nice story. So whatever you say, it's going to be nice. So the grandfather started, fine. Once there was this boy that lived in a very small village, and his father used to work the land. He worked very hard, okay, the whole daytime. The whole morning he used to work the land. And in the afternoon, he would go to the forest and chop some wood for heating, and then go to the center of that village and draw some water from the well that in there. And so this is how they used to live every day, and the boy was happy, everything was okay, the father, the mother, the family. This is how they used to make their living. It wasn't easy, but they were happy and everything was fine. Until the father got sick one day. He was in bed. He was burning up from the fever. He couldn't go to work, and he stayed home days and weeks. And if the father is not working, it's very tough. It's not easy. So he asked the boy. So the mother, she went herself to the city. She bought some food. She used to draw water herself from the well. It wasn't easy, and they didn't have food at home, and it was very cold at home also. So the grandson says to the grandfather, "Grandfather, it's a very sad story. This boy, you know, he's cold all the time. He's hungry all the time. His father is sick. Very, very sad story." The grandfather said, "Wait, I didn't finish. There's a continuation to the story." And then the mother called her father that used to live in the big city. She asked him if he could take her son for a while until the father is going to recover. "Sure," said the grandfather from the other side, "I'll take him." So they took him to the big city, and he spent some quality time with the grandfather. It was so nice and lovely. The grandfather took him to rides in the amusement park, and then they spent time together. They shopped, they watched the huge buildings in that city. They went to eat in this cafe and in this place. He took him to the zoo. He showed him all kind of nice places there. He really liked it. Okay? So the grandson says, "Grandpa, it's such a nice story. Now it's a nice ending. You know, that the boy is feeling so much better and everything." He said, wait, we didn't finish. He goes the mother sends messengers that everything is okay. The father was healed and everything is good. So the grandfather wants to send the grandson home. He sends him with his own private carriage, and on the way they had to pass through a forest. Two big wolves came towards them and they frightened very much the horses. The horses got frightened, the whole carriage went upside down, and the big wheel came and smashed the boy's the leg that was trapped underneath. So the doctors could not really fix his leg, and they had to amputate it, to cut it off. And but he saved his life. They saved his life. So the boy is like, oh, what type of story is that? It's a very sad story. Look what happened to the boy. Wait, said the grandfather, I didn't finish yet. He spent he was many months on bedtime, on bed. It was very painful to him. He suffered a lot. It wasn't easy. But then, sometime later, a war broke up in that area. And because he was away, okay, they came, the enemies, they killed everybody around, but he was safe because he wasn't there. So the grandson says, yay, yay, it's a nice ending to the story. And the grandfather says, wait, there's no end, you have to continue, we have to continue it. So then, he grew up, this boy. And this boy went back to the village where he used to live and wanted to build back his father's house. And the boy tells to the grandfather, wait, I could continue the story. So then he started to build the house. He went through the rubble, through the ruins from the war and everything, and he found a big treasure. And he made so much money, and he built a nice home and everything like that. And the father says, that's a nice ending. He says, no, wait a second, says the grandson. Apparently this money made him become very stingy, and he didn't want to help others, to help needies, and he became very stingy, and people hated him and they didn't like him, and this is how they continue making up this story, the grandfather and the grandson, about things that appear very, very good, but tend to be not so good, bad. And sometimes things that look to us so good tend to be bad, So who knows? How can we know, what is good, what is bad, and how to look at things? So the nimshal to it, it's something interesting. All the circumstances, all the events that happen in the world, okay, there are a sequence of the one big sequence that is managed, okay, by Kadosh Baruch Hu, by the Almighty, and everything leads us to the ultimate good. We don't see this ultimate good at that moment, but we see just one part. We don't see the whole thing, and it looks to us bad, but there are sufferings in the world. There are all kind of troubles that people go through. There are all kind of disease, lo aleinu. There's wars. There's all kind of problems, all kind of accidents, lo aleinu, and everything. And it looks sometimes that it's all against us. Aval, we have to know that not every suffer is something bad. Let's try to see how it goes. Everything that happens to us in the world, whether it's good or it's bad, okay, it's not good or bad. It's neutral. And every problem has a potential to elevate us from where we are, okay? And we as Jews, we have to believe that everything that Hashem does is for the best. Let's try to understand how it works out. Once they asked Socrates. Socrates was this Greek philosopher. They asked him, "Tell us, please, is it worthy to get married or not? Is it a good idea to take the burden of to bring parnasa to the house and to take care of a woman, to take care of the kids, and to run here and to run there, and all this stress and everything, or it's better to stay single, free from all the troubles. Sometimes people have shalom bayit issues, so people have all kind of issues. What's better?" So Socrates, apparently they say, he had problems with his own wife. He didn't enjoy her, but yet he said, yes, it's better to get married. And they told him why. He says, if she's going to be a good wife, okay, so it's worthwhile, it's fine. And but if she's not going to be a good wife, so you will become a philosopher like me. What's wrong? What's the idea? These things, bad things that happen to us, can elevate us. You can turn and find new things. Yeah, it has so much potential for you to grow. It depends how you look at this.
In a positive way.
In a positive way. So, enough that people, because of the trouble that they have, they start thinking about life, about the purpose of life. What is their job in their world? What they're supposed to do? How they're supposed to look at things? It's very important, because this is the way that they come close to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and this is the whole idea. Once there was this little girl that was born with a certain birthmark in her ear. It was very noticeable, and it bothered her so much. All the time she used to complain, why did Hashem create me this way? That's not fair. Why I have to go through this? People, especially little kids, friends, they make fun of her, they remark always, they see something, they see her, it bothered her a lot. One day though, some war broke up in that area, and the soldiers abducted her, kidnapped her. One of the soldiers that kidnapped her thought that she belongs to his family or something like that. There was a whole big confusion there, and her brother went to search for her. When he came to the headquarters and he inquired about her, they asked her, "Can you give us some sign? Who is this girl? What do you know?" He says, "The most substantial thing that I can tell you about is this birthmark that she has in the ear." And through this, because of this birthmark, they were able to find her and return her home. Otherwise, who knows if she would go back to her family. So bad things that sometimes happen to us could turn, to our good. We don't know. We don't see this. One of the biggest debates that Judaism people are always asking is about this suffering. Moshe Rabbeinu already asked this question. He asked Hashem, please let me understand a little bit, please reveal a little bit the way that you run the world. Not only him asked, Yirmiyahu says that they asked, some other prophets they asked, why it seems like good people suffer and bad people succeed in the world. They have everything. They have the wealth. They have the assets. They have the ability to do whatever they want. They achieve. They. Why is that so? And Ramban says in his introduction to Sefer Yov, he says a lot of people even lost their faith because of that, because of these questions. And Dr. Viktor Frankl, he lived in time of World War II. In his book, A Man Looks for Meaning in His Life, he tries to say something like that. He says, let's say a monkey. You take a monkey, people in the lab, take an animal, and they want to find they want to find a certain medicine, nasir. So they prick the animal a few times, okay, to draw blood, to do what kind of tests that they do on this. The animal suffers. Does the animal understand why it suffers? What the purpose of these bleedings that they cause him, these pains that they cause him? The animal does not suffer because its brain is limited. It's an animal. It cannot understand. He says human being is much higher level than the animals, right? And human being, when you ask him, why, what is the purpose of these troubles in the world? Why do people suffer? Can we explain Hashem's ways in the world? In a way, human being cannot understand it also, because there's another dimension above his understanding, that sometimes Hashem reveals the whole puzzle, the whole picture. Sometimes Hashem does not reveal him, and he stays in a way blind. He's in the dark. He doesn't know what happens. So, and even though one of the answers for that is that people suffer do not come, God forbid, as a punishment to the people, but to elevate us. To, people go through all kind of challenges in life. They have to learn how to cope with things, and in a way Hashem also gives a reward to the righteous people if they pass this test that Hashem gives upon them. Rab Nachman, we bless him, tells a story about this. Okay, it's a nice story. It teaches us a very important moral. There was a story about this mortal digger. Used to have this kind of a job back in time that people used to dig mortal to do all kind of stuff with it. So
mortal, you said?
Mortal, teeth, dirt. Mortar. So it was a very, very hard job, not easy, very exhausting job too. And but he brought parnasa to the house. He brought money to the house through this. And one day, though, he was in this mine or wherever he worked, wherever he used to dig this mortar from, and he found some kind of nice big stone. It was sparkly. It was very dirty, though. He looked at this and he says, something, I'll bring it to my children, my kids, they're going to play with this. After he finished his work, he brought it home, he washed it, and it shined and it sparkled. It was such a nice stone. He said to himself, okay, let the kids play with it. Then he says, when it became dark, it was shining, it was making so much light in the house. He said, maybe I'll take it to the goldsmith. Maybe I'll ask him to evaluate this stone. Maybe I can sell it, make a profit. He takes it to the goldsmith and he showed this to him. He tells him, I've never seen such a big diamond in my life. It's the biggest diamonds. And he tells him, can you buy it for me? He said, I would love to, but I don't have the money to pay for it. I'll suggest you something. Go to England. There's a king in England. He has, he has a lot of jewelry like that. He collects. He has a nice collection of these things. Go and show it to him. He's going to be able to buy it from you, and then come back, and then you're going to be a very, very wealthy man. We're going to live a much more comfortable life. He says, I cannot go to England. I don't have the money. He says, I'll lend you money. Don't worry. So he lends him, let's say $500. He lends him so that he'll be able to go there and come back and everything. He goes to the port where the ships are, and he sees a ship that goes to England that carries wheat, only wheat in that ship. He comes to the captain of that ship and he tells him, can you please take me to England? I cannot pay, but let me take you to a private room. I want to tell you something. So he takes him and talks to him privately and shows him this big diamond and tells him, I want to go and sell it to the king in England. And when I'm going to have money, I'm going to be able to pay you for the ticket. Can we make a deal like that? So the captain says, okay, fine, why not? He gave him his own room. He knows that he's going to be rich in the future. He gives him his own room. He gives him his own private waiter who's going to come and serve him food, delicacies, all kind of meals, a few times a day, whatever he needs. Please come. Can we show you this? Can you give? He really gave him a nice service. One day he was sitting and eating, and he started to think about the day that he's going to meet the king, how he's going to offer him and surprise him with this nice big stone, and what's going to happen. And he fell asleep. He didn't realize he fell asleep. He fell asleep. The trays with the food is with him and everything. When he got up, this tray was gone, and the stone was gone. Now what should he do? He can scream thief or liars, or he goes to the captain and tell him that maybe the servant took it from him or something. But then he thought twice. He said, wait a second, maybe he just didn't realize that I had it there. It was, he had a nice, a small table cover. They take the table cover usually afterwards and they shake it, outside on the deck, I guess, towards the water. And he didn't even pay attention. And this stone is lost, basically. What should he do? He said, maybe I should go and tell the captain I cannot pay for this fare, for the ride, but then he's going to throw me after the stone. He's going to throw me to the wall. Why he needs me now? What should I do? What should I do? He decided not to tell him anything for a while. So then, a few days later, the captain comes and talks to him and tells him, so what are your plans? What are you going to do with the money that you're going to have from? He said, I thought maybe I'll come back to my village. I'll build myself a house, because they used to live in huts or whatever. I'll build a house for myself. I buy a wagon, 2 horses, and maybe a worker to dig those mortar for me, because I don't have to do this anymore. He says, no, you will be so rich, you'll be so wealthy, you'll be able to buy the whole village. Why don't you go back to this village? Go back to take your family, but stay in England. I have a suggestion for you. If you don't mind, we can make a business. So he's like, what do you suggest me? He says, whenever I come to England, okay, so because we take crops of wheat. When we come to England, we have to unpack it quickly because it's crops. They will spoil something. And the merchandise over there take advantage because they know that I'm in a rush. And they buy it in half of the price. They don't pay me the full price for that. They pay me half of the price just because they take advantage that I don't have the time. Now, in exchange, when I go back to here, to my city, people ask for me to bring from them all kind of fine fabrics. And because I'm in a rush and I have to leave, they sell it to me full price, too much, the overprice me, and they take advantage of me. I want to make a deal with you, because you're going to stay in England all the time. You have the time and you have everything. Please, let's make a deal. You're going to negotiate with the people so that I should be able to sell them the wheat in a good price, and negotiate with fabrics that not to buy it in a too high price. And we'll split the profits. We'll half and half. We'll share. Like we're partners. He says fine, and that was his big salvation, because he didn't have anything to start with. But now Hashem opened for him a gate, and he could really make a good profit, and he became a very wealthy man from this thing. Wow. Why? Because he didn't panic, and from thinking and drowning and being depressed and upset and ashamed. Why you did it? After people find the treasure and it all disappears in 1 second, people will scream. People can, be aggravated, agitated, upset, and instead he thought, okay, thing happened already. How do I go next? How do I go up from this? What do I do? This was a smart man that knew how to, what to do with this afterwards. So this is the Nimshal, says Rav Nachman Rebbe. People in their youth time, whenever they're young, they're like these mortar diggers, meaning they're wallow in dirt in a way that they don't know anything of their life, but they're one big diamond. They are so innocent. They have faith in Hashem. They believe that the world is good and everybody is okay and everything is good. Once they go to maturity, once they mature, okay, they're not babies anymore, they're not infant anymore, they start realizing stuff, they start implementing things into their life, they start understanding things, they start rationalizing things. This is, during this process, people may lose their faith, this Emunah, this tmimut, this innocence, right, that they have, and they become too critical and too, cold to everything. What is needed from the human being at that point is to not to lose his strength, not to lose his emunah, not to lose his hope, not to break down, not to forget about everything. I don't want to be Jewish, or I don't want. Sometimes trouble strikes people, and they want to lose everything, God forbid. And instead, in Hebrew we say a crisis that comes upon a person, we say mashber. Masa mashber? Mashber is a crisis. When something, it's like shover, it's like can break you. Mashber, we say also, when you see waves that coming to you, it's a woman when she giving birth, she's also in mashber. It's not easy, but also when people are in the sea, in the ocean, there's all kind of waves that comes upon them. Waves can drown people. Waves can people don't know what to do with themselves. So the rabbi there explains, when a wave comes to you, don't we can see it so nicely from the example of Rabbi Akiva. You remember, I once told this story. Rabbi Gamliel was in a ship, and from afar he sees another ship that's drowning, and he got so worried, he got so upset, he got so sad, because in that ship he knew there was a big Talmid Chacham, and we know that this big Talmid Chacham was Rabbi Akiva. He says, Chaval, Rabbi Akiva is such a great person, he should die, he should drown in the ship, he has so much knowledge, he has so much Torah. Later on, he sees him, he was already on land, they were sitting and doing din Torah to somebody, and he comes, to sit, to do judgment with him, to sit in the Beit Din. Rabbi Akiva, where do you come from? I remember I saw your ship was drowning, where do you come from? He says something so nice, Rabbi Akiva, so smart. He said, I fell to the water. Nizdamen li daf shel sfina. All of a sudden I saw a piece of wood. I went onto a piece of wood, and every wave that came towards me, I lowered my head, I let it pass, and I continued on until I came to the shore. And this is such a great learning that we can learn from Rabbi Akiva. Whenever there's a crisis comes upon a person, don't fight against the crisis. Don't stand straight. Lower your head, let this crisis pass, continue on. the waves also, beside, God forbid, drowning a person, if you lower yourself whenever the wave comes, it can rise you even more afterwards. And this is how slowly you can get to the shore.
What do you mean by lower your head in realistic
Lower
way?
your head. Sometimes somebody, God forbid, insulted you. You want to answer back. You want to fight. You want to make a whole big thing. Instead, lower your head. Don't answer for that second. Keep quiet. Let it pass. In a perspective of time, you're winning because you didn't answer back. You also can see things differently, or maybe at that point she was very sick, my sister-in-law, that's why she answered me this way. Or my husband was so tired whenever he came from work, and that's why he answered me this way. Or my mother-in-law, she was so stressed out because there were so many guests are coming, and this is why she screamed at me. Or every situation in life, instead of fighting back and hey, it's not fair, I'll show you, I'll tell you, I'll teach you, lower your back a little bit, let it pass. And this is how you, first of all, you elevate yourself this way. You know, you become a better person. You become so much stronger. The fact that you didn't answer back, you feel so much good about yourself. I didn't get to her level. I didn't, and this is a rule in the life that we have to take. We have to learn from Rabbi Akiva. Don't answer everything. Don't fight with stuff. Rabbi Akiva, we learn so much about him. One of the examples is he was walking once with this rooster, with his donkey, with his candle, and the wind came and blew off the candle, and an animal came and ate the donkey, and instead of fighting against Hashem, you can fight. How you would fight? He would bring another candle from somewhere else. He would carry a lot of candles with him. He would bring, I don't know, he would find another thing. He will try to, he's not fighting against that. She says, Akol Tova. I don't see it at that moment, but I know that everything is for the best. And that's exactly what happened. Everything was for the best eventually. So, the index for success in our life is not how much we succeeded, but how much efforts we put in, okay, in order to succeed. But how you cope, Hashem teaches us. Whenever you're in a sea, the world is like the sea, okay? In the sea, it means that sometimes the sea looks to you calm and blue and beautiful, and sometimes it's stormy and it's windy and it's all gray and it wants to swallow you up. In life, there's ups and there's downs. There's all type of situation, all type of things that happen in life, and you instead of fighting, sitting, as I said, standing and trying to find, sometimes when we bend, and sometimes we wait for this big ugly wave to pass, we are on the winning. We win. So. Once Rav Shach, somebody came to him and complains, Rabbi, I cannot do it anymore, it's too hard for me, this one is sick, this one had a problem, I don't have money, it's too much already, I can't anymore. So the rabbi is listening to his pain. And then he asked one of the household members to bring him some tea and honey. So he brings him tea and honey. The tea was bitter, and the rabbi takes the spoon and he dips it into the honey. And he tells to the man, look at this. How do we have honey in the world? Who made the honey? A bee. What is a bee? A small little creature that doesn't even have one bone in her body, he says. Or yet, okay, and doesn't live, it doesn't even live 6 months, it lives even less than that. And yet, it makes such a sweet honey, sweet honey that can sweeten this tea. And he tells him, in life can happen that somebody is going to come and sting you like this honey, like this bee. Okay, comes and stings you. And whenever we see whenever we see a bee, what are we saying? What are we doing? We try to run away. We try to chase it away from the house. We try to use any means that we can to, not to be near it. But the truth is that it brings so much sweet to the world. It produces this honey, and Hashem, during our lifetime, like you, he tells him, people bump into all kind of stings and sorrows and troubles and problems, and we have to know that in Hebrew we say me'az yotzeh matok, from bitter, from bad, okay, comes good, comes only good. What is this ultimate good? And sometimes only from these sorrows people can see the good. When do people search Hashem? If not when it's hard for them. So through the troubles, people are searching, Hashem. People want to see the presence of Hashem, tries to understand you. One of the most courageous escapes from the Holocaust, World War II, was the story of Alfred Wetzler and Rudolf Verbal. This story I heard many years ago from Rabbi Noah Gershel, that his parents were also saved from the Holocaust, and they were in the ghetto of Auschwitz and Birkenau, and this escape was done Erev Pesach, the 7th of April 1944. Now, Rudolf Verbal, he worked in the Nazis camps, in the working camps, as he had a very important job. So the Nazis gave him a lot of writing tools